I'm actually afraid that my daughter will endure debt. And because I keep hearing all these stories of these college kids graduating and they can't get a job and they're like $100,000 in debt. Welcome to Carrie On, the show where we explore reinvention, self-discovery, and empowerment before, during, and after midlife. I'm your host, Carrie Murray. It's time to keep our head above the chaos and carry on. The Carrie On podcast is a space for honest conversations, personal stories, and powerful perspectives. While we may discuss health, wellness, finances, relationships, and social issues, the content shared is for informational and storytelling purposes only and should not be considered professional, medical, legal, financial, or therapeutic advice. Some episodes may contain sensitive topics or adult language. Listener discretion is advised. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or affiliated organizations. We encourage listeners to seek out qualified professionals for guidance tailored to their individual needs. Are you ready to retire at 65? For women in middle age, the window for preparing for retirement, college funds, and leaving behind a legacy of generational wealth starts to close in on us in a way that didn't in our 20s. How do we ensure that we're not only securing our present, but also planning for a comfortable, fulfilling future? We're joined with Diana Greshtchuk, the CEO of Fan Your Flame LLC, a financial literacy coach and your best financial friend. She is passionately committed to guiding entrepreneurs, businesses, and individuals to achieve a wide variety of financial goals. Diana utilizes pioneering methods rooted in practical financial concepts and mindset work to educate and empower her clients to achieve goals of financial independence, transformation, and abundance. We'll talk about strategies to take control of your financial future, the unique challenges women face, and how to shift from just getting by to truly thriving. It's time to break down those barriers and take charge of your financial destiny. Let's talk about money and get to it. Thank you, Diana.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited you're here. We cover a lot of topics here at Carrie On. I think this one is going to be one of the hardest we've covered. We've even talked about vaginas and pelvic floors, but money, for some reason, I don't know. What do you think?
I hope you have your big girl panties on because we're going to have a talk. So if you need to go get a popsicle, you need to go get a sucker. Yeah.
Go grab it. You definitely take an approach to finance and financial literacy from a trauma perspective. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so I'm a trauma-informed financial literacy coach. So what does that mean? So when you're trauma-informed, it basically means that I walk into every interaction, every person I meet, I assume that they have gone through some kind of trauma in their life. Big T, little t. We don't compare, but everyone has trauma. And trauma isn't about an event that happens, it's how your body handles that event. So the traumatic response your body has can affect your nervous system, and it can lead to thoughts, behaviors, emotions, and patterns that create your reality, your behaviors. And so being trauma informed and recognizing that everyone has sustained trauma means that the first thing we have to do is make it safe. You have to make sure that you feel safe. So when we talk about money today, for a lot of people, they've endured financial trauma. And so maybe talking about money isn't safe. So what I like to do in my work is I create safe spaces to have these hard conversations.
Oh, it's so important. And have you noticed in working with your clients that that mindset is actually what's blocking them from making the money that they want to be able to earn to then retire at 65 or, build the legacy they want in wealth? Do you have to break down that first to really earn?
I think it really helps. So the work that I do, you have to do inner work to make the outer work work. Mm-hmm. And that inner work is taking a real critical look at yourself. I call it getting financially naked, but you're also getting emotionally naked and raw and really honest with yourself and looking at yourself in the mirror and what you're doing. And so it's important to do that from the perspective of a non-judgmental observer. So you can't be judgmental when you observe yourself to begin to work on your mindset. A lot of people, a lot of clients, when they come to me, they're like, Diana, you do money. I can't afford this. If I need to invest in a new laptop for my business, they'll walk in with an attitude of, I can't afford this. And what I like to do is a simple shift. What if we shifted it from I can't afford this to how can I afford this? Because that simple shift then removes the block in your mind that you can't do something, and it invites creativity to the table. So I need this thing. How do I get the money to pay for it? I may not have it now, but that's when you then figure out, okay, well, I can go into debt. I can put it on a credit card. I can do some extra hours on my shift this week. I can sell something on eBay and make a profit. And then that's how I could finance it. So it allows you to then be open up to the possibilities of how to actually creatively finance something.
I love that. Now, my audience are primarily women over 40. They're not quite ready for retirement, but at 40, they're kind of probably like, oh shit, I should have thought about this, and now I'm in debt. And they're feeling a little bit of shame maybe behind the fact that they're not, where they were hoping they could be. How do you work with individuals who feel that shame and are hitting this point in life and they're like, how do I get ready for retirement? I guess that's two questions. How do you work with individuals to overcome the shame? And then how do you advise them to get ready for that next stage of life financially?
Woof. Okay. Loaded questions. So I think when it comes to shame, that's a really interesting emotion. And I think there are a lot of complex emotions that happen with money. Shame is definitely one of them, because you sort of should on yourself. Like by 40, I should have a retirement account already. I should have a stable job. I should have this, and that. And it's all about expectations that you have for yourself. So sometimes with that shame, there's a lot of judgment. And so part of what I do is really working with people to drop the judgment, because shame comes from that judgment. And part of that, it's a hard habit to break. And that's why we have to be aware of what we're doing and our patterns. And that's why you have to become awake to it. And so what I like to do is set breathing alarms throughout the day where I just do some breaths to regulate my nervous system. Yeah. And then if I'm feeling something like shame in that moment, or if I'm feeling joy, you take stock at those times of the day and you figure out, okay, well, if I am in a shame spiral right now, how do I get out of that and bring myself back to neutral? And that's really important to do, to have these money conversations. And it's a practice and it takes time. Shame is a complex emotion that builds up over time, and choosing to drop the shame is where your power is.
Why do you think it's particular around women with money?
Because money is something that we don't talk about, and we're honestly, I think there's a massive flaw in our educational curriculum. Students aren't learning about money. They don't teach finance in school. They don't teach it unless you major in it in college like I did. Mm-hmm. And so with that massive hole in our education system, people just aren't getting the financial education. So the way, especially women with money, if they have it, do they have a career that they hustled and worked so hard and that's why they have it? Or do they have a wealthy spouse? Or do they have a trust fund? And you never know, but just having a lot of money doesn't make you financially literate with it. And in fact, there can be shame, for example, that you might get taken advantage of, that you made a wrong investing decision, that you wish you had saved earlier and now you don't have a retirement account, right? Mm-hmm. There is an expectation that I think a lot of women place on themselves to know money if they have it, because they don't want to lose it.
Very true. Very true. I love that. So I'm, getting ready to, send a kid to college. So I know money's going to go out that way. I'm trying to keep my investments in place and not endure a lot of debt. What do you say to the person who's in my situation on, any advice on how to really avoid a lot of debt?
Well, let's turn that question back to you, Carrie. What are you so afraid of about debt?
I'm actually afraid that my daughter will endure debt. And because I keep hearing all these stories of these college kids graduating and they can't get a job and they're like $100,000 in debt. And I was fortunate to have a college fund, but it ain't going to cover all 4 years. So I guess I'm fearful for her retirement more than my own.
Right. That's so interesting,
yeah.
Carrie, because as a woman too, you're so focused on your children. You don't put your mask on first and think about your retirement. Let's look at the time horizon here. Your daughter is 18. The retirement age is 69 and a half now, if you listen to the government and their standards. She's got 50 years to plan for her retirement.
True.
You are closer to your retirement. You probably have 30 years.
That's sweet. I do.
30 years to retirement. But that's where you actually have an opportunity too. Your time horizon is much closer when you need that money. So you should be more focused on that if you're going to should on yourself. And so I hear you about the younger generation taking on debt, but that's also part of kicking them out of the nest, right?
Yeah.
And letting them have their own life experience and their own story. And they get to figure out, how do I pay for this? And you can definitely set your kids up for success. You want them to be successful. You don't want them to graduate with a lot of debt. You don't want to go into debt for it. But here's the thing with debt. Debt can be your ally. Debt is one way to finance something when you are looking to creatively come up with the money for a college education, for a home. Debt can be good, but you have to walk in eyes open. You have to know the terms. You have to have a plan to pay it back. And so to your point, that's where you worry about, are they going to get a job afterward to be able to pay it back? And so it's not necessarily a bad thing to incur that debt, but you get to watch them have a journey that, you know, they need to figure out how to do it. So what is she going to do to make the money back to pay off that debt?
Oh, God.
That's also talking about privilege, right? Because so many people don't have a choice. They have to go into debt for college. And you want to give your daughter the privilege
Of not going into debt.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm already worried about the debt she hasn't even started. And I know so many people have to cash in the 401k to get their kids out of credit card debt, or they have to like dip into their retirement to, you know, help them, you know, get from college and buy that new car or get that new house. What do you say to the...
I mean, frankly, you know, if I'm going to be honest, I don't have kids. So I am a big fan of letting people figure themselves out, and that's part of their journeys. And I know that you want to provide for children, but after a certain point too, it's not always going to be your responsibility. And that's a hard thing to say. Yeah. And that's a hard thing to hear, especially when mothers are thinking about their kids and wanting to give them every privilege and every benefit and a leg up to be successful. It's going to be hard to hear, but you're going to need that money in your 401k more because you're closer to retirement.
Right.
Women supporting women through travel. Solo doesn't have to mean alone. Two Peacocks Travel brings women together through thoughtfully curated group trips that go beyond sightseeing. Every journey is designed to empower, encourage, and create lasting friendships. From shared laughter over a local meal to supporting each other on an adventurous trek, these experiences foster a deep sense of sisterhood. Plus, with a focus on compatibility and shared interests, every trip ensures meaningful connections, professional networking, and even future reunions with your travel besties. Ready to build your global sisterhood? Head on over to twopeacockstravel.com and meet your next travel bestie.
And then what about the opposite? Say I have an aging parent. What conversations should I have with my parents before they are at a place where I need to be parenting them and putting them in facilities or nursing or what?
And you're talking again about being selfless and doing for other people. And so the first thing I always want to check is put your own mask on first. That's what they tell you on airplanes, right? And a lot of people are going through having aging parents and how it works in the system and having to either have them come live with them, or if that's not even possible, you may have to pay for long-term care for the aging parents, nursing, facilities, upgrades to the home to allow them to be mobile. And that's a lot of money too. So it is not something covered by health insurance all the time either. Right. So there is something called long-term care insurance that I think is really important if you want to provide for yourself when you become the aging parent. But I think a lot of people, it's wonderful to be in a place to be able to take care of an aging parent and to return the favor. They brought us up, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's also another complex emotion, guilt. Yeah. We feel guilty if we don't help them. Mm-hmm. We're ashamed if we can't help our parents. So again, that trauma comes into play and things get really emotional when it comes to taking care of the people that you love and financially providing for them.
Yeah, and you're right, who also took care of you. Yeah. So you do feel, I totally get that. I definitely feel like.
But guilt is also a choice too.
Yeah.
And you can choose to feel guilt. Or for example, you may realize, I really want you to come live with me, but I have a full-time gig. I have a life to live. And that's a lot of responsibility. And I'm not a nurse, so that's not really my wheelhouse. And what I want you to know is that it's safe to recognize your limitations. It is safe to have healthy boundaries and to not overgive, because if you are taking care of the aging parents and you are slowly killing yourself to do so, then you're not going to be able to retire.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You ain't going to be around. Yeah. So, and there's a joke you always talk about, like if you really want to save money on retirement, die early.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's retirement plan, is like unhealthy coping mechanisms and behaviors so that you don't have to live to see the ramifications of your credit card debt. And
Okay. So that's, so
the retirement plan is very expensive scotch.
like, exactly. So what about the ones who are like, okay, well, I do want to live a long life. I want to see my grandkids. I don't want to be a burden, but I'm like 40, 50 years old and I haven't saved enough. Is there some investment strategies you can give? What should we be looking for? I love that you mentioned long-term insurance. I never even knew that existed. So that's good to know.
Well, there is no silver bullet. If you're sitting around at 40 wondering what you're going to do, this is the hard conversation, right? Because number one, financial wellness is part of a balanced breakfast, a whole portfolio of wellness. So you need to be taking care of yourself, exercising, eating right, sleeping. All the advances in science are trying to create longevity and a longer lifespan, but that also then means having money to live longer. And so there's no silver bullet. There's a very basic concept in finance called the time value of money. And it says if your daughter who is 18 starts practicing saving now and investing, little tiny nuggets and little, dabbles into the budget, $100 here, $200 there. But if she consistently saves it over time and invests it, she will end up a millionaire. She has time on her side to make money over and over and over again. But as you get closer on that time horizon to retirement, it gets harder and harder. And that means for you to grow your money in 30 years instead of the 50 years your daughter has, you might have to be really aggressive with some of your strategies. And what happens when you're aggressive? There is something called risk and return, right?
Right.
So when you get really aggressive, you might make riskier moves with your money, but that could mean you actually lose it. So what you want to do is actually, as you get closer to retirement, you need to do less risky things with your money and shift from a growth strategy, which is probably what I'd recommend for your daughter now because it has time to grow, but shifting from that growth strategy to a capital preservation strategy to remove that risk of loss because you need that money in fewer years. And as you get closer, you don't want to lose it. You want to make sure it stays the same so you can't aggressively grow it at that point.
Right.
So there's no silver bullet easy answer here of what to do when you're going to retire in 20 years. Like part of that is also visualize what you want your retirement to look like. What does it actually look like?
Right.
And if you're one of those people that wants to take your daughter on vacations or take your son and put him through college or whatever it is, or you want to buy a home or you want to travel or live on a yacht, you get to visualize what that looks like for you. And then it's sort of a qualitative equation in your head because you realize, okay, if I want that kind of retirement where I'm traveling all the time and I live on a yacht, then, if I want to say fuck them all, I got to have fuck them all money. So then that means I got to work backwards and save for that now. That means I should be investing now. And so what I would recommend beyond visualizing the retirement that you want to have is have a money date with yourself. And I have a free money date handbook on my website. We'll get to that, but have a money date with yourself. Part of this is like dating yourself, right? And figuring out what you want. But a money date, it shows you where you are right now. So that's when I go get a popsicle, go get a sucker if it makes you nervous, because some people really avoid looking at their finances. So they don't take stock. You have to look at your bank accounts. You have to look at your credit cards and like actually log in and look. And I put together with that free money date handbook, you can create personal financial statements is what you're doing. So you're getting real. You're getting naked in the mirror with yourself myself financially. This is how much cash I have. Wow, that's confronting. I don't have as much as I thought I did.
Yeah.
These are the liabilities I have. Look at all these people I owe money to. Holy shit. Oh, where is my source of income coming from? Oh, I have multiple streams of income. Okay, that sounds good. Oh, but my expenses. And from the money date, you then come up with, you have a balance sheet, you have a P&L, you know what you have, what you owe, what you're making and what you're spending and where. And from that, you can make a budget. And from your budget is then what gives you the power to begin saving, to put money aside, to then begin investing that money so that it can grow. Because we know if you just put money into savings, it's not going to.
Right.
The interest rates at the banks are like 0.01%.
Right.
So I have a high yield savings account. Last month in interest alone, just by keeping some cash in there, I made $855. Passive income. I didn't have to do anything. So also flexing, once you have what your revenues are and expenses are, flexing your revenue lever. So looking at more ways to make money and shift that lever up, and looking at what you're spending your money on and seeing where some of those expenses might not be aligned or might not be needed. You know, like, do you need blowouts every third day, or can you like eat some newspaper burritos for a week, or like, you know?
Right. Yeah. I think my money date is going to need a big glass of wine.
Hey, it helps the medicine go down, right?
Exactly. Wow, this has been really, really informative. I love this. When you're working with your clients and you're kind of having the money date and they're getting uncomfortable, and I mean, I'm sweating just listening to this. But you know, for someone who sees, it can only see the negative, the debt, the kind of like, oh my God.
Well, that's where the judgment comes in, those feelings of guilt, the feelings of shame that how did I amass this much debt? How did I avoid looking at it and knowing it? And why did I leave it till now to pay off? I can't even think about saving because I have to chip away at this mountain of debt that I have. And a lot of people say, if I have debt, can I even invest? The answer is yes, you have to. It is healthy. I have debt and I invest. You know, I have a mortgage, a home loan, and I have a brokerage account. I have a retirement account, a 401k because I was in the corporate world, IRAs, but you can do both and you have to do both.
Absolutely. Now, tell me the difference. You talk about good debt and bad debt. Describe the difference.
So I even want to flip that on its head because it's not even good or bad. And I think that perpetuates the feelings that debt can be bad. I like to call it helpful and unhelpful debt.
Okay.
Helpful debt, number one, it's likely used to purchase an asset. And an asset in basic accounting terms is something that you own that generates future cash flows. So an asset could be a home. An asset could also be a college education because you're going to generate future cash flows with the education you have. You're going to generate future cash flows if you get CPA after your name. Right. So that designation is an investment. If it is helpful debt, it's going to be used to acquire those assets that will make you more money, and that will lead to your plan of paying it off. Because the other thing that's helpful is usually it's not as high an interest rate. When you think about credit cards, they have really high interest rates because you're essentially paying for the convenience, the ability to go out and buy something right now. And so they're going to charge you 25%. Whereas if you were more thoughtful, if you had a little bit more time and you went and applied for a home equity line of credit, you might get a lower interest rate, but you're trading that ability to use that money like right here, right now. And so helpful debt, you will see lower interest rates typically. Unhelpful debt will have higher interest rates. Also, some debt is subsidized by the US government. What do I mean by that? You can deduct your mortgage interest on your taxes and it saves you money. The government subsidizes buying a home in that regard. Do you know in the country of Greece, their government, the way their taxes work, you don't actually get to deduct your mortgage interest unless you are claiming rental revenue. So you would have to make it up and record claim income that was hypothetical in order to deduct your mortgage interest. So in that way, we don't have to do that here. You claim your actual income, but you get to deduct your mortgage interest. So the government subsidizes it. So mortgage, helpful debt. Going into debt to buy a new necklace, probably unhelpful debt.
Yeah.
Are you starting to feel the vibe and the difference in
absolutely.
how you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can actually picture unhelpful debt and my helpful debt right now in my mind. So that was a great way to explain it.
And even a car loan, right? A lot of people think a car loan would be helpful debt because that's going to let me drive to my job and I generate future cash flows. But surprise, that one's a maybe. Car loans, as soon as you drive a car off the lot, it loses value right away.
Yeah.
And a car depreciates in value. The thing about, say, investing in a home is that appreciates in value.
Mm-hmm. Do you lease or buy cars? Just out of curiosity.
I bought my car in 2017 and I paid it off and I drive my paid off car and I love it.
My parents never leased. Not that there's anything wrong, no judgment, but I've always been someone like, I haven't had a car payment in so long because I've owned the car forever. So,
and I have a Subaru, so that thing is not depreciating value very quickly.
Yes. And that thing's going to last longer than all of us on this planet.
That's right.
Friends, it's Carrie Murray. And if giving a TEDx talk is on your vision board, this is for you. Ready for TED is an 8-week program led by my friend Tony Purry, PR exec, media trainer, TEDx speaker herself, and a fabulous guest on Carrie On. This guided experience is built just for women ready to clarify their message and craft a signature talk and share their big idea. Whether you're an expert, founder, or change maker, you'll expand your influence, raise awareness, and gain unshakable credibility when you hit the red circle. I know firsthand Tony supports women and has made progress, and it is remarkable. Apply now for readyforted.com and let Tony be your guide to the global stage.
The volatility of the market right now. So
I know, honey. Yes.
So like we get fed so much on social media and so much from the news and so much like is coming at us about, oh my God, the market's going to crash. Oh my God, we're in a recession. Oh my God, we're going to get a depression.
It's a roller coaster.
It really is. How do you maintain, like literally, like, what's your thought?
That goes back to regulating your nervous system.
Yes.
That goes back to the trauma-informed part of this. And so it's breathing exercises. And look, breathing isn't going to solve the markets, okay? Let's be clear. But how you choose to respond to all that volatility, that's something you can control. So first thing, focus on what you can control and what you can't. Markets are going to market, okay?
Yeah.
Crazy's going to crazy.
Yeah.
And you get to choose how you show up with that. And right now, frankly, a lot of investors aren't loving that volatility in the marketplace. So even I, as an investor, I'm trying to find other ways to invest my money outside of those markets because I don't want to take part in it. I'm not finding the investment opportunities that I need in that market. It's just not working for me. It's not aligned. So right now I'm looking at venture capital and private equity funds. Mm-hmm. That is the opposite. So in the finance world, we talk about something called beta, and that's the measure of market volatility. So if an investment has a beta of 1, it's highly correlated to the market. So if the market moves, then that investment moves right along with it. Mm-hmm. And so what I look for now is I look for things that aren't correlated with the market. They have a beta of 0 or they have a beta of some other. So that's a quantitative measure, but qualitatively here, we're just looking for things that don't track that volatility of the market. Mm-hmm. And that's where private equity is great. Venture capital is great, but look, it's not for everyone. It's riskier, right? We talked about risk and reward trade-off. Mm-hmm. Those venture capital funds, you might have 1 unicorn in a portfolio of 10 investment, which means you have 9 dogs. Right? We love dogs. So in this, I'm using that as like the not winners. Mm-hmm. But to have 9 dogs, you can lose your money. And especially when you invest through equity and you own it, you bear the risk of ownership, which means the risk of loss. I've made an equity investment that I lost everything on. And luckily I was okay. I lost $25,000. And for me, it was a lot. It was a little painful.
Yeah.
I don't have shame for making the decision I made because I trust the decision I made, but I lost money. And so you have to be okay with losing that money. But that's the risk, right? The reward with venture capital, with private equity, is they generate higher returns. When you look at the stock market over the long term, it's returned maybe 10 to 14%. Venture capital funds, private equity funds can return as much as 25%.
Right.
That gets much higher. So that's the thing. When you are taking on extra risk, you expect to be compensated for it and you expect higher returns.
Would you say that a higher risk, faster yield? And like if I'm risking,
not necessarily, because also part of this is I'm talking about funds, right?
Yeah.
diversification. If you knew to invest in Amazon or Apple way back in the day, like when I was 8 years old, I wish I was doing that instead of the Barbies I was playing. What was I doing when I was 8? If you're not buying homes at 8, you're screwed, honestly. But putting it in one stock, that bears even more of a risk of loss because you're not diversified. So if that one company tanks, like that's sort of like your beta, your coefficient is then tracked to that stock. So if Apple has a bad day, you have a bad day. And so when you are just investing in one company, then you lose that ability to diversify and have 9 dogs actually be carried by the one unicorn.
Yeah. So you're already talking about things that I know a lot of the audience is saying that's not for me. How does someone find a fund? How does someone find venture capital? Simple thing other than top.
And look, especially, women investing. Yes. And especially you talked about aging parents. There is a whole generation of folks whose parents have left them money and they come into inheritance, and sometimes they don't know what to do with it because they haven't ever had money before.
Right.
And it can be daunting, it can be scary, and then suddenly you don't want to lose that money. Like for me, when my mom passed away, I got a small inheritance and I felt so much pressure to not lose that money because she worked her whole life to make that money.
Yeah.
But I also realized, like, I need to do what makes me happy with it. I need to invest in myself.
Which is what she would want you to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. She would want my happiness. I would need to invest in myself. And I really began thinking about, well, what's my legacy? What am I leaving behind? Like, I don't have kids, right? Mm-hmm. What the hell am I doing with my life? And I hit this existential crisis. And I think a lot of people can identify with that because they're receiving this massive generational transfer of wealth and figuring out what to do with it and how to plan for it. And so there's a confidence in yourself that you have to build. It doesn't come from anywhere but you. It's an inside job, and it's security, and it's realizing no amount of money is going to give you the security you need. Sure, everyone would love to have $75,000 just fall in their lap, and that's going to make them better. But you hit a point in your life where the dollar amount doesn't matter anymore because you don't feel secure and you don't feel safe with it.
True.
I already forgot the point of the question because...
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, no, that I have $75,000. Should I put it in? I definitely...
Oh, how do I find a fund?
Yeah. How do I find
and so when there's all those complex emotions, let's say, when you do have a sum that big, you really don't want to lose it. So for me, I talk to my network. I executive produced a film called Show Her the Money, and it talked about how female-led ventures only get 2% of venture capital funding. So there are funds being built out there. And just watching that film opened up to me tons of contacts in that space. So now talk to me as your coach. I know someone who runs SoGal Investors. I know this 360 Venture Collective. I know this fund is just launching with Catherine Gray and Silicon Valley Women's Fund. And so talking to your networks, supporting women, supporting other female-led entrepreneurs as well. Like, I invest in female entrepreneurs myself through private loans, and they take on debt. But it's really about finding what's out there for you and exhausting your network and meeting the right people. And you could even, like, half of my adulting is Googling. So I just Google female-led venture fund, female-led private equity fund. Google does a lot for me.
Yes. And just let's put a dollar amount to it. Can I start with $10,000? Can I start with $100,000?
Well, that's the thing. Number one, we all have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So start today. It's better than starting tomorrow. Number two, do you know how I started? In college, I was taking my first intro to finance class, and I was like, I'm going to open up a brokerage account. So I opened up a brokerage account with $100. And then whenever I got tax refunds, I put a little bit more in. And then every time I got my paycheck from work, I would put a little bit more in. And then I could finally afford one stock. So I bought one stock. And that's literally how you chip away at it. And fast forward to today, I have a lot of stock.
Yeah, a lot of stock.
And it's that behavior though. And so that's something too, when you talk about someone who's 40 realizing, holy shit, I need to do something about retirement. It's about cultivating those consistent behaviors because it's not just going to get $75,000 tomorrow and then you got to figure out what to do. How it's really built, how you really start is small. Those micro movements, every little step, it's about whatever the next best step is. And honestly, that's just realizing I need to do something. So for some people, it's like you can't be successful until you start. So what's stopping you?
Oh, so good, Diana. As we wrap up here, I want you to talk about your downloadable really quick. And then please tell us where we can find you. If you're watching this on YouTube, please blow up the comments with any questions you have. I'm going to sit down with Diana and make her answer them with me. Really quick, tell us where we can find you and tell us about this fabulous gift you brought everybody.
So my website is fan-your-flame.com because I make a lot of investments, but domain names isn't one of them.
Okay, I get it.
So I'm not going to pay for all that. However, I do have a free money date handbook I mentioned. You can download that. It'll ask you to put your email in, and then that'll subscribe you to my email list. You can unsubscribe. You can stay subscribed.
Love it. And where are you on all the socials? What's your handle?
So Fan Your Flame LLC on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, all of it. Yeah. Except X. We're not on that one.
We're not on X. No. Wow. Well, thank you so much. This was really, really eye-opening. I've learned a lot, and I've been reminded of a lot that I already know. I'm feeling much better about my daughter going away and my parents aging. Thank you to you, Diana. Thank you to my audience. I know this was a little uncomfortable, so eat the chocolate if you need it. Always feel free to like and subscribe and comment, please. I'm serious about that. Thank you, everyone. And again, keep your head above the chaos and carry on.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Carry On. Be sure to find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And as always, like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And don't forget to keep your head above the chaos and carry on.